doing this book, and I'm going across the country as part of a Digital Divide tour. Been to Stanton, Virginia, Garrett County, Maryland, Lincoln, Nebraska, Hartford, Connecticut, Cleveland, Ohio, and I basically show up, I'm a little dressed down, and I say to people, hi, what's your internet access like in America? And some people kind of look at me a little crazy. I'm a sociologist by trade, and we're all about participant observation and jumping out and becoming part of the community. But when I start to engage them in a conversation, and this goes back to my point and then the role that libraries play, they start to tell me stories of the declining nature of small farms and the inability to not have internet access and how that stifles their ordering of different products and services. They're the only mechanic in town who services everybody's car. Anybody from rural America know what I'm talking about? But yet, everything has moved from the booklet online. So getting parts and services is time consuming because you gotta have every manual, when today, with internet access, you can go online and put in the vehicle model and number. In Hartford, Connecticut, true story, I found 6 African-American girls that get up every morning and walk to McDonald's to finish their homework, simply because they cannot get internet access at home because it's not affordable, or the school is still built on the standard of concrete, that trying to run a wireless connection within that school is impossible. In places like Cleveland and West Phoenix, Arizona, where migrants live, they tell stories of not having the community infrastructure to be able to have people go online through other areas. But there's one thing in all of my travels that stays consistent. They have a local library. They have a computer lab at that library. Remember when I was in Hartford, Connecticut, after walking with these young girls to McDonald's, and there was a meeting at the local library. It was like apples and oranges of the type of access that people were talking about that were deficient within schools, and the lines of people waiting to get on that 7 lab computer station when you walk into that library. They talk about the need to be able to build strong community infrastructure inclusive of libraries to bring access to America. And so by default, all of you are now in this conversation. You have been for years. I've been working with libraries for most of my career. But you're even more linked to the outcomes and the trajectories of life's chances of millions of children and adults and seniors. And let me tell you why you matter. You matter, first and foremost, because anybody should tell you that a library is a better alternative than McDonald's to get your homework done. Let me say that one more time, just in case you fell asleep. A library is a better alternative than McDonald's to get your homework done. That's the first thing. You don't have to buy anything at the library. You just got to show up. Libraries are also the anchor institutions in communities that's often the safe haven for many people that live in those neighborhoods. You play a role. The library does everything except operate a full-fledged credit union, I find, when it comes to resources. You're the main ingredient in developing the community infrastructure whose access to high-speed networks and hardware make it easier for residents to engage. Years ago when I started in this career, so I've been doing this about 25 years, I was a graduate student in Chicago, and I came along when the Community Technology Center movement was starting out. When I was doing this work, we had no place in community to go except the library. And as a result, when I was trying to build computer labs, we partnered with libraries more than 20 years ago to figure out how we can have this transfer of learning, because I had no books, I had hardware, but they had all the knowledge. Who remembers Encarta? Lots of libraries got Encarta back in the days. Those were run on 386 machines that had CD-ROMs. So I was a young graduate student in Chicago, building computer labs with young kids who had 2 things in their community, pretty much: a liquor store and a library, and me, and an Encarta CD. And I essentially would use the Encarta CD to have people understand this is information you could find, but then go to the library and go get the book. Fast forward to the 21st century, you are the community institution. You create the infrastructure for people to get access. In places where people, as I've explained already, have limited access to digital connectivity, the only place that they can go is the library. And libraries have become so much more sophisticated. In New York City, they have a Wi-Fi hotspot lending program. I've personally seen this program, where people can go in and check out a Wi-Fi hotspot device, in addition to a book. And what they're finding in places like New York, Chicago, Portland, they are distributing tens of thousands of those devices to bring internet access back to the home. That interrelationship between the library and the community is one that should never be broken. It is the driver for closing the digital divide.